For the last 3 years, in 15 states and 29 cities, 3 Hall of Famers and an ambassador teammate have traveled speaking directly to thousands of high school and middle school teenagers to share their stories of struggle and pain on their road to Canton. A life-changing day for those looking for hope and inspiration.
One thing I've learned today is opportunities, and I've had many opportunities over the course of my life. Some that I haven't taken, and some that have benefited me in ways that I can't possibly imagine. And
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Strong Youth, Strong Communities virtual program featuring the great state of Ohio. I'm your host, Jameer Howardson, and guys, we have a great show for you today. We're live on Facebook, so as a reminder, can you please hit the like and share buttons, and also leave your comments to interact with our youth from across the great state of Ohio and to interact with our Hall of Fame ambassadors. Now, let's kick it off the Hall of Fame way with a little bit of We Will Rock You. Hit it! Let's get things started with the president of Big Brothers Big Sisters, Pam Iorio.
I'm Pam Iorio, CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. Our mission is to create and support one-to-one mentoring relationships that ignite the power and promise of youth. We have been devoted to changing the life trajectories of vulnerable youth since the program was first founded over 100 years ago. In fact, our origins as an organization reside right here in the state of Ohio, where our nation's first big brother in 1903, Irv Westheimer, had the vision and inspiration to mentor a young boy and help others do the same, thereby sparking a movement. The coronavirus pandemic is changing so many aspects of our lives. Although social distancing is making it difficult for our bigs and littles to be together, it has not stopped the creativity, and bigs and littles are finding ways to connect virtually. That is why I am excited about today's Strong Youth, Strong Communities Summit. This is just one example and creative way to support the resiliency of the youth in Ohio and across the country. I would like to thank the middle and high school students joining us today. A lot of you are part of our mentoring programs. These are challenging times for you, your families, and our communities, but you have the commitment of Big Brothers Big Sisters and our volunteer bigs to be your support system. Today you will hear encouraging and inspiring words from people who have succeeded in life despite adversity. This is our time to be stronger together while physically distancing as we talk through how to overcome challenges we may be facing. A special thanks to Buckeye Health Plan and the Pro Football Hall of Fame for hosting this event. My thanks to Governor Mike Dewine for taking the time to support the youth of Ohio through this virtual summit. Your leadership is greatly appreciated during this challenging time and as we move forward together. And now, it is with great pleasure that I introduce my friend, the President and CEO of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, David Baker.
Thanks, Pam. Appreciate all the great good you're doing, and we look forward to seeing you soon at the most inspiring place on earth, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's a great honor to be with all of you here today for an outstanding program. As we kind of get into our virtual huddle here, practicing social distancing together. You know, in the football, in the game of life, there's a lot of similar lessons. It teaches you how to get up when you get knocked down, how to go on when you don't think you can go on any further, how to sacrifice for a teammate, and how to fight to be great. And today, in this program, you're going to hear from three of the greatest Hall of Famers of all time. You know, in the game of football, there have been well over 330 million young men and now women that have played this game. There's only 5 million that have played it in college. There's only 29,000 that have ever been paid to play it, coach it, or officiate it in the National Football League. And today at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, we have only 326 Hall of Famers that have a bronze bust there, and only 176 living Hall of Famers with their gold jackets. And today, you're going to hear from three of the best ever. Hall of Famers Anthony Munoz, Aeneas Williams, and Darrell Green. And they're going to be joined by former college basketball star and a fellow Hall of Fame ambassador, Iman McFarland. You know, you might think that you're alone, but we're all in this together. And we appreciate you huddling up with your Strong Youth, Strong Communities team. And now, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you the esteemed governor of the state of Ohio, a man who we think is a Hall of Fame leader himself, Mike Dewine. Governor, thanks for all your leadership.
Hello, I'm Ohio Governor Mike Dewine. I want to thank our friends at Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Buckeye Health Plan, and other community organizations for supporting this Strong Youth, Strong Communities virtual summit. It's a privilege to be able to share this message with middle and high school students across our great state. The coronavirus has temporarily changed the way we all live. It's meant classes at home, time away from friends and organized sports, and postponements and cancellations of activities and events. And I know that as many of you graduated in the past few weeks from middle and high school, you did not get to celebrate in the traditional way that you certainly would have liked to have done that. Stay optimistic. The physical distancing and other safety measures are temporary. A trademark of every Hall of Famer is resiliency. The dictionary defines resilience as the ability to bounce or spring back into shape, the ability to recover strength, spirits, and good humor quickly. Every athlete, even the best ones, experience missed plays, face losses, and are knocked down repeatedly. Hall of Famer Vince Lombardi of the Green Bay Packers once said, "It's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get up." That's true for all of us. You don't have to be a professional football player to know how to bounce back. To be resilient is to find a positive reaction to adversity. It is to use the strength within to get through the hard times. Pro Football Hall of Famer Anthony Munoz, who played 13 seasons for the Cincinnati Bengals, once said, "You have to learn to overcome adversity. I've met a lot of successful people, and I can't remember one who hasn't gone through some tough times and obstacles." You'll hear more from Anthony in a few minutes, but what he has said certainly does ring true. Everyone faces hardships, We're all dealing with difficulties as a result of the pandemic. You are not alone. Many people are experiencing distress, anxiety, and fear because of COVID-19. I urge you to talk to someone about your feelings and to take care of yourself. Eat good, nutritious food, exercise, get adequate sleep, stay hydrated, and make time to relax and unwind. When these hard times are over, we will all be stronger. For now, take time to read more, play more, help out more at home, and look for ways to bring a smile to someone else. And if you play sports, I encourage you to look at this as a season of training. Use this time to work on your own skills right at home. You can also study the game. If your interest is in football, the website of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, for example, offers many inspiring stories and history at absolutely no cost. It's been my job as governor to do all that I can to combat COVID-19. And I want to thank you for doing your part to keep everyone safe by practicing social distancing, by wearing masks. As an Ohio resident, you have an important role to play in helping your friends, your neighbors, family, and your school return to normal in a way that is safe. We are all in this together and can focus our time, our energy, our efforts during the summer months to help each other through these very difficult times.
Thank you, Governor. We look forward to hearing from you later.
Now, let's meet our Hall of Fame team, starting out with Gold Jacket Aeneas Williams. Aeneas did not play college football at Southern University until his junior year as a grad student and as a defensive back. Later in his pro career, he switched to safety. His Hall of Fame career included 55 pass interceptions and 13 touchdowns. He was selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2014. He and his wife live in St. Louis, where
So honored to be joined by our Hall of Fame Strong Youth, Strong Community team. And rounding out is we have Mr. Anthony Munoz, Miss Iman McFarland, Mr. Aeneas Williams, and Mr. Darrell Green. Anthony, I want to come to you first and foremost. How are you doing?
Well, Jameer, I'm doing well. Doing well. Things have been going good, staying active as much as I can. I'm thankful I have that exercise room down in the basement for an old guy to get out there and get down there and move around a little bit. Family's doing well. I appreciate you asking.
Now, Anthony, during your message to the kids, could you just re-echo that in your thoughts of here we are today for the Strong Youth, Strong Community Town Hall meeting?
Well, it's always a pleasure to be involved with our team here with Strong Youth, Strong Community. And I guess when I think about addressing the young people, the one word is resiliency, overcoming really some difficulties and challenges. And I have to share about my journey. I have to share my growing up in Southern California. My mom raised 5 kids by herself, working 2-3 jobs. And I'm talking about some tough 2 and 3 jobs. They weren't just any jobs. They were out in the fields picking grapes, at a chicken farm, packing eggs. So the capacity to recover quickly when you're overcoming adversity or challenges started at a young age because we didn't have a whole lot, as far as material things. We didn't have a car. We didn't have, enough money to be buying, several sets of clothes. So it was what it was, and we just lived with it and understood that. But Mom made it a point that, she worked hard. She taught us work ethic. She taught us responsibility. And even though we didn't have a whole lot and we had to, be resilient in what we were doing, she was one of 10. So we had a lot of relatives that came alongside and helped us out with transportation and sometimes picking me up from a Little League baseball game and taking me out to dinner, because at times we were trying to figure out how that next meal was going to be there. But we made through it. We made it through it. And of course, for me, as I continued to grow in that environment with that background, I knew I didn't know a whole lot, but I knew that maybe athletics, something that was a first love of mine, maybe that was a way to get out of that environment and overcome those challenges. And of course, I talk about Mom. She taught us that, she was our mom, our dad, our coach, and we knew she was the boss. I mentioned being raised by a single mom because my dad was in and out of prison when I was growing up as a kid. I never met him. I knew eventually he passed away after he got out of prison, but and that's the reason Mom took that role of raising us and making sure we had it, as well as we could. And so athletics was a big part. So I grew up and I went to high school with that dream of being a pro baseball player. I tell people I didn't know a whole lot back then, don't know a whole lot more now, but I figured maybe if I made it to the major leagues, I could set her up with a house and buy her a place because we didn't have a very nice house. So that was my focus. I got to high school and I played, football, basketball, and baseball, and really excelled at baseball. And I did all 3. And then by my junior year, I had a chance to go to school and play football just about anywhere I wanted to. And I decided to attend school and play football at the University of Southern California. And, I talked about resiliency, and I thought, back in those days in the 70s when I was coming out of high school, USC was winning national championships. They were winning Rose Bowls, sending out #1 picks, Heisman Trophy winners, All-Americans. I wanted to be one of those guys. I wanted some of that. So I decided to attend school there and play football there. But little did I know that resiliency would even become a bigger term in my vocabulary. I'd have to overcome some amazing challenges. With that dream of going there and being part of that great program, adversity hit me. Out of the 4 years at USC, I went through 3 knee operations. I thought maybe I could go to the NFL, but I really wasn't sure if I could do that. My freshman year, 7 games into the season, first knee operation. My sophomore year, I played healthy all the way through. My junior year, again, 7 games into my season, I went through my second knee operation on my right leg. So now I'm thinking I got one last year, my last hurrah. Here's my chance to maybe have a decent year and maybe make it to the NFL. But this time it wasn't 7 games into the season. It was the second time we had the football. I went down with my 3rd knee operation, this time on the left leg. And I knew it was in Texas. I knew what would have to happen when I flew back to LA, back into the hospital for my 3rd knee operation in 4 years. So what I'd learned at home from my mom, work ethic, responsibility, and that word resiliency, having the capacity to recover quickly. Now let's see what would happen if I could recover from that 3rd knee operation, because there was one last goal that I wanted in my college career, was that hopefully play in a Rose Bowl. I'd been there 4 years, and we'd played in 2 Rose Bowls, and I'd yet to play in one. So, like a madman, with a lot of support from the medical staff, my family. I'd been married for about 2 years. My wife and I, Dee Dee, were going through it. I rehabbed, and I played in one game, the Rose Bowl, that year, and not knowing what would happen after that. But, going through the circumstances, growing up in my family without a dad, not having a whole lot, going through college and facing that adversity, I learned a lot of lessons that I would not trade in. I would not eliminate those parts of my life for anything. So I guess the message I have for the young people, in addition to being resilient and working hard, being responsible, is that whenever that doubt creeps into your mind, whenever there's naysayers that you can't do that, you can't do this, you got to block all that noise. You got to block that doubt out of your mind and say, I can do it. I can work hard. I can be responsible. I can fight through it, regardless to not having a whole lot of resources. There'll be some resources there for you to utilize and use those and fight through it. And like I said, just believe you can do it and fight and fight and fight. And that's what I was taught. That's what my mentors taught me, and I'm thankful for that. And, like I said, I would not trade in growing up where I grew up for anything, and I wouldn't trade that adversity I went through in college, because now I have the opportunity, and I'm thrilled that I can wear this gold shirt with my teammates, Aeneas Williams and Daryl Green, and all the other guys that can wear these gold shirts. So I'm very thankful for that.
Anthony, thank you so much for that message. Iman, it's so great to see you. How are you doing? And if you don't mind sharing your message that you had for our young student athletes.
Absolutely, Jameer. Thank you so much, everyone. During this time, we're practicing social distancing to keep ourselves, our family, and the world safe. I want you to know that you're not alone in this fight. You're not alone at all. When I was younger, I was bullied a lot for being too tall, for sticking out, and for just not fitting in because I was different. Those words truly had a huge negative impact on my life. And I want you to know, as I'm telling you today, that you are smart, you are awesome, and you can do anything you set your mind to. You are smart, you are awesome, and you can do anything you set your mind to. Those issues, those things I did not believe as a young person. Not only did I try to fit in with those cool kids that bullied me by shrinking and trying to fit in with them, but I also mentally shrunk. I believed those negative words. I didn't think I was awesome. I didn't think I was smart. But it wasn't until I learned to stay fly. Fly stands for finding love for yourself. I know during this time, we've all known someone that is struggling during the virus, whether they've lost someone they've loved, or they've lost a job, or they can't have access to food, or even their family and friends. These type of situations can cause you to have negative thoughts and doubts creep in about yourself. But I always want you to remember to stay fly and find love for yourself. What I'm going to do now is share 3 ways that I stay fly. You see, staying fly, by loving your body, your mind, and your unique abilities, you will be able to reach your full potential in life. So for me, although I'm home, I practice a great self-care routine. This routine consists of things that make me happy and bring me joy. A self-care routine for yourself could include reading, writing, playing outside or exercising, watching a movie with family and friends, or learning how to play a new instrument. By practicing self-care, you are taking care of your mental, emotional, and physical health. And this will also allow you to stay fly. Secondly, I practice gratitude. Although we're isolated from so much, we still have so much to be grateful for. So what I do, I smile a little bit more. I compliment myself and my family. I try not to speak negatively about people or gossip. And I also take time to appreciate the beauty in nature. And lastly, I use words of affirmation. Just like the words that I told you earlier, that you are smart, you are awesome, and you can do anything you set your mind to, I also speak these affirmations to myself. You can try speaking them out loud, saying things like, you are not alone. It will be okay. You matter. And by saying these things, it's reinforcing what is and what will always be true, that you do matter, you are not alone, and you are loved. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my ways that I stay fly. Remember, today and every day, I am so proud of you. You are awesome, and always stay fly.
Iman, thank you so much for those inspiring words. Aeneas, it's so great to see you as well. Pastor Williams, tell us all about the great things that you've been having going on and your story as well.
Well, first, greetings to the great state of Ohio. It's an honor to also have information and words from the governor and to be on with my friend who you just heard, Iman, who's taller than me and Daryl. And you'll hear from our good friend Daryl shortly. And thank you, Anthony, for allowing me to be on with you guys. And just to be able to share during this time, Iman just mentioned as well as Anthony, we're probably living during one of the most unique times in human existence. But I want to encourage all of you who are listening. We're so proud of you because I have no idea what it's like. My children have been going through virtual learning, and it takes resilience, just what Anthony talked about. It takes affirmations, just what Iman talked about. And now I want to talk to you about how valuable you are. You are valuable. Matter of fact, right now, before I even get started, I want you to repeat after me. Come on. Everybody say it. I am valuable. Let's do it 3 times. The first one after me. I am valuable. Come on.
I am valuable.
Let's do it again. I am valuable. Go.
I
am valuable.
Now say it the 3rd time like you really mean it, like you're looking in a mirror. Come on, Parker. Come on, guys. I am valuable. Let me lead it. I am valuable. Your turn.
I am valuable.
Awesome. Daryl, who will talk, as he will tell you, he's 5'8" and 3/4, played 20 years in the National Football League. Anthony just told you he ended up playing in very few games in college, yet drafted in the 1st round. Iman will tell you, playing basketball, and it gave her an opportunity to have an opportunity, being tall, not wanting to be tall when she was your age, and look how her height has benefited her. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I grew up the youngest of 3 boys. And I never had to look outside my house for a role model. From my dad and mom and my 2 older brothers, they were my examples. And I grew up in an area of New Orleans called Holly Grove. It is the same area where Lil Wayne is from. And when you grow up with 2 older brothers who are outstanding young men, outstanding athletes, there's a tendency when you're the youngest to actually not be noticed. And I could tell you, growing up, I had no idea, number one, of my value, because believe it or not, my idol was my middle brother Achilles, who's 18 months older than me and 2 grades ahead. All I wanted to do is be like Achilles. And I can remember playing football from 4 years old all the way through high school. But after my senior year of high school, I wasn't recruited. The only school that actually even thought about giving me an opportunity was a school named Dartmouth, which is an outstanding school, but I could not imagine going on the East Coast. I just wanted to graduate in May and get to, that's right, the Southern University, a historical Black college. And it was about 60 miles from New Orleans. Achilles was already there, my role model, my idol. Once I graduated in May, I literally the next month in June was in an apartment as a freshman with my brother Achilles, who was a junior. The entire time while at Southern University, my first 2 years, believe it or not, are you sitting down? I didn't play football. My dad is the first college graduate on both sides of the family. And my mom ran the florist shop because we owned the florist. And my dad's vision was for the 3 boys to get education. And it was never sports. So all of a sudden at Southern University, Achilles majored in accounting, so did I. Achilles got involved in a student government association as well as a fraternity. In essence, I did everything he did. And because we were going to school year-round, including summer school, Achilles graduated with his accounting degree in 3.5 years, and I was on pace to graduate in 3 years. And I'll never forget, when my brother graduated, he called me back and he said, "Little brother, slow down. You'll be working the rest of your life." It was at that time, that particular summer, which was going into my junior year, that I ended up giving my life to Jesus Christ. And one of the things that came to me, and I would ask God through this relationship, I say, "God, who am I?" Because before this, I'm just Achilles' little brother. I have a degree in accounting. That's right. I don't even like numbers. And matter of fact, looking back, if I had known what I know today, as we're speaking to you, learn from us, I probably would have majored in communication. Today, my wife and I pastor a church, and we get opportunity to speak. And one of my natural giftings is to take complicated information, whether the scriptures, the Bible, or things like a story that I'm giving you now, and share it in such a way where people can understand it and be inspired to go and be and recognize their value. So as I close this, I recognized, I said, when I gave my life to Christ, became a Christ follower, in the context of the Christian faith, value is determined by what a person is willing to give up for you. And as a Christian, a Christ follower, God gave his son, Jesus Christ, for us, humanity, to get us back in a relationship with himself. So guess what, man, you get that? God will give his son because he knows how valuable each and every one of us are. And do you know, one of the things I asked God when I became a Christian, I said, "God, how do you speak to us?" And he began to show me he speaks to our heart. So get this, a week before the season starts, my junior year in college, it entered into my heart to walk on the football team. Made no sense. All I did was walk on, ironically end up starting by the 5th game of the season. You know, growing up when I was your age, people said I had a big nose, big ears, and I had a dip in my head. And they said I had a big feet. Do you know, once I tapped into a part of my purpose, which is to play football, I was able to use the big nose to get a lot of air in where I could run longer and faster. The big feet helped me cover ground. So everything your peers are teasing you about at your age, which that's what we do, I want you to realize God has given it to you, and it's an asset. And as I close, I want you to always remember your value is in your difference. So I so love my brother Achilles, but he also respects and honors little brother Aeneas. Your value is in your difference. You are valuable, and the best is yet to come. Thank you, Jameer.
Thank you so much, Aeneas. Daryl, it's great to see you as well. Pastor Green, please tell us, how are you doing and what you've been having going on as well?
Man, this is so exciting. First of all, I just can't tell you. I'm sitting here in my home and I'm getting the chance to reach the state of Ohio. I'm familiar with that state. Obviously, my brother-in-law lives in Ohio and Columbus, and played football there. We played, and certainly the Pro Football Hall of Fame, that's my second home. So, you know, I started off as a young man in the early years. My parents got divorced. I love my dad and mom, but they got divorced, and that was a tough time for my life. I remember just my mom picking us up from school and saying, "What's going on?" And, "Hey, we're leaving, Dad." And I remember from there, we lived in a relatively decent house, a decent neighborhood. But from that, next thing I know, we're on food stamps and free lunch and living in the projects and all the issues that we faced as a young person during that time. I eventually had a child out of wedlock. I didn't really know how to be a man, and a lot of things I had to learn. And I had 2 kids that I met when we transferred, it was the 5th grade. In the 6th grade, I met 2 buddies that I loved to death. They were Green and Greenwood. I'm Green, Cornell Green, and Clem Greenwood. And I tell you, when I went to college, Cornell went with me, and I cried. I wanted to be in the car riding home with them 5 hours, and they had a car wreck. And that Monday, Cornell was gone. I missed that car wreck. I got drafted, I think, on a Friday, and on Sunday, Clem hung himself. A couple days later, my best friend hung himself. I'm in the middle of them in my school yearbook. These are my best friends. So life hadn't always been so perfect and great. But I've learned that through adversity, or even my mom, when she passed away, I'll never forget that. You know, I was sitting, we were playing basketball with some guys. This was a couple of weeks later, and I was just sitting there, and we lost. And I was on the sideline, and I just got to really meditating on my mom, and man, I went into a deep hole. And I remember jumping out of that moment saying, oh, I can't go in there. What I'm trying to say is that in times of adversity, that's when leadership is always in play. It's my responsibility to jump out of that moment, because I had a wife and kids. People lose their minds in those moments. Tragic moments can take you either down or bring you up. And I think that in these tough times, it can crystallize your purpose. It can help you to form your constitution. And it doesn't take away from those things unless you allow it to. But in this season, I want to encourage all the young people, as I said to these Green Bay Packers, going back to that point, they always want to know, Daryl, what was the secret to this longevity? 20 seasons? It was, and I told them all the time, it's my lifestyle. It's how I live life. It's how I established over those years, understanding my purpose, but then creating a constitution that governs the steps that I'll take. So I don't cheat on my wife, because I don't want to pull up to the school for my child in the 5th grade to say, we're leaving Dad. I don't smoke and drink because I want to destroy my own mind and to be able to think and speak well and give directions to people. I want to do things, my government and my constitution directs me and guides me. It's like football lines. This line is out of bounds. This line is in bounds. And so I want this big enough field to play in bounds. You don't have to go out of line. You don't have to color outside of the line. So it's so important that all of us, at this season and this moment in our life, that all of you as young people realize that you are a leader, and leadership is always in play. And it is in this season and in this moment that we're counting on you to not only make sure that you're safe and healthy, but also that you look out for others. If you are planning to play football, you're working on getting your SATs preparation. You're working on a job. You're working on going in the military. You're working on your working out. You're trying to get ready for football, basketball. I'm telling you, stay the course. Stay the course. And I'm telling you, reach out and touch other people and say, hey, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Everything's going well with you? And so because you are leaders, you are important. We've said that, but you are leaders. And we're depending on you as well for a strong future, for not only your life, for your state, but for our nation. And so I consider it an extraordinary privilege to be with you, to let you know, to find that balance. And look, you know, sometimes things are tough, but in those times you find your purpose, and then you establish your constitution, what governs your life. When things are well, then they're called on you, and they think you've got some experience, you've got some wisdom, you've got some understanding, and hey, share what you got. Share your past, share your present, and share your future. And so it's so important for us, and we're grateful, and we hope and we pray that just in these very short moments, you have been blessed, and you can take something from this moment that not only strengthens you, but it also bring up that next man, that next woman, that next brother and sister, as Aeneas said about his brother, helping him, pulling him along. So we're blessed. Jameer, I'm blessed to be with you today. I'm grateful for what God has given us in this platform. And we're driven to continue to bring leadership to our nation. So God bless.
Thank you so much, Daryl and Iman, Aeneas, Anthony, we will see you later in the show when we will have the opportunity to talk with all of the students in and around Ohio. But now, let's go back to the governor's office, Mr. Governor Mike Dewine.
Wow, what an impressive program. I'm overwhelmed and so very impressed with the remarks from our Hall of Fame Gold Jacket and Ambassador Iman McFarland. I want to thank Anthony, Aeneas, and Daryl for caring about Ohio's youth and being such strong mentors and role models for young people across the nation. I also appreciate how candid Iman was in sharing how she overcame bullying to become a superstar on the basketball court and to be an incredible small business owner. We'll make certain that she comes to Ohio for a visit as well. I also commend the student ambassadors from across the state who are helping to lead this youth summit. We look forward to hearing your reaction to the remarks from the Hall of Fame Gold Jackets and Iman, and to listen to the questions that you have for this group. Before we move to the questions, I want to again extend my heartfelt appreciation to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and Buckeye Health Plan for helping us organize today's summit. Thank you, and let's keep the program moving with questions from the audience.
Well, it's my pleasure and it's an honor to host these beautiful young students here for our first ever Strong Youth, Strong Communities, Ohio. Welcome to this virtual town hall meeting, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing today?
Great. Good.
Well, we're so great to have you here. And we wanted to just let you guys know, we hope that you guys are all safe and sound. And if any family member or yourself has been affected by COVID-19, our thoughts and prayers are with you, but everybody's looking good. You had a chance to hear from our Gold Jackets and our team ambassador. So let's get it going. And you have some questions to ask. So I want to go to Zaymar. Zaymar, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you today?
Man, I'm doing great. I know you have some questions. Fire away.
My first question is for Mr. Williams. So once you found your value and your path in life, did you still follow some of your brother ways?
Once I found my path, once I knew who I was, then yes, I still followed his ways because I had my own uniqueness, and then I realized my brother had his. But the ways that he had, the way he went about doing things were still principles that I was able to follow. So I found my unique purpose in my gifting, but I stayed following some of his ways that caused him to be successful.
And so my second question is for Mr. Green. How hard was it for you to keep up with your everyday life knowing that you had a career?
Yeah, that's a good question. As I mentioned in that talk, I mentioned the fact that I was at this basketball game, and I went into a deep hole of just concentration about my mom. It was a few weeks out, and I just found myself daydreaming, and it scared me so bad. But more importantly, it caused me to say, I'm responsible for myself. If I go down in this hole, you can, I think, lose your mind, just lose your whole mindset. And so I thought, I can go down in this hole out of remorse and pain and issues with my mom, just missing my mom, or I can come out of this hole and stand up because my son was on the court right there. I want to be with him. I want to be with my daughters, my wife. And then I also, as I mentioned, I called my siblings and say, hey, I just realized something. You can be in a moment where you get to concentrating on your mom, on our mom, and it can just take you into a place of depression, but it's your responsibility. You guys, we owe it to one another to step out of that. We love our mom. You don't have to be insecure about that, and you can overcome, but you are responsible. And I think that's the biggest key in that question, is that you move forward out of a sense of responsibility to God, to yourself, and to those who are around you.
Trey, you have some questions for our Hall of Famers?
Yes, I do. Yeah. All right, my first question is for Mr. Munoz. As a former professional athlete, lots of people loved you, but how did you persevere through the adversity and negativity you faced?
So first of all, going through the adversity, I have to really go back to the foundation that my mom taught us. And that was just to move forward with what you have, never give up. I mean, just watching her as she never gave up going through adversity. I mean, working 2-3 jobs, she had health problems early on, but she still fought through it, never complained, and just always worked her tail off. So that really incentivized, motivated me as I faced adversity to get through that. And then you talk about the negativity. For me, it was always somewhat of a motivation to push me that much harder. When somebody felt that I couldn't do something, it just pushed me to work that much harder and try to accomplish something that people would say I couldn't do. And of course, I talk about my mom and I talk about the motivation of that, the noise or the negativity. But first and foremost, as a sophomore in college, I came to faith in Jesus Christ. And having that foundation, I really believe, allowed me to utilize the things that I learned growing up, the things that, really pushed me through adversity and negative, noise that was out there. So, you really got to, dip into several different areas. And I'm thankful that I had each one of those areas.
All right. For my second question, it's from Mr. Williams. What is one piece of advice that you could give to people struggling in their own lives that would help them to value themselves?
One piece of advice that I would give is find a mentor or mentors. And mentors are credible, successful others who've already done well what you're attempting to do. So when I wanted to, I'll show you a picture. When I wanted to raise a family and be a great dad, I found a guy by the name of Gil Bird and his wife, Marilyn Bird. And my wife, Tracy, and I, before we ever had children, Gil played in the NFL. We would go stay in his home, and we were able to learn a lot from Gil and Marilyn and how they raised their children. So I would suggest find a mentor.
Chloe, we want to come to you next. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All is well. All is well. I know you have some questions for our team ambassador and our Hall of Famers. Fire away.
Yes, I do. For Ms. McFarland, I have the question of what are the character traits for kids and teens to have if they have a big goal they want to accomplish?
I think some of the characteristics that young people need today are actually some of the values and principles that we've talked about in our stories and my teammates' stories. First of which is being, responsible. There'll be a lot of distractions on your road to success. You could have friends maybe wanting you to skip school or do things that does not feel right to you. And so you have to be responsible and keep to yourself what is true to your heart and your constitution and continue to drive forward. And also persistence. You'll have major gains and minor setbacks throughout life. But no, just like Aeneas said, everyone has been through similar setbacks before, and to keep believing in yourself and believing that what you want to achieve can happen. And also to be curious, just like Daryl said, having mentors, talking to your family and friends. If you know of someone that has achieved a similar goal, reach out to them, figure out what they did, and they can also, be a great mentor and help you see the right path and maybe help you avoid some of the minor mistakes that they might have made.
Okay, and the second question I have is for Mr. Green, and it's in your opinion, what is a good way to learn to accept yourself and be okay with it?
In football, one of the big things in football was about your eyes, what you're seeing. Sometimes you can see too much, sometimes you're not seeing enough. And one of the things I think you've got to make sure that where your eyes are. I learned years ago that the Bible taught me that that don't judge yourself with yourself. Don't judge yourself and compare yourself with your friends. I was good at two shoes. I was always the good kid, clean the house up, do all the nice stuff. And so, in the Christian faith, to realize that ain't nobody good. There's no one who's good. We need help. And so I think it's super important that you don't find yourself always comparing yourself to the next person, because we've all got problems. And so it's super important that your standard is not you. Your standard is not her. It's not him. But the standard is God, who created us, and we're beautifully and wonderfully made. We're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you're special. It's our job to keep our eyes on in the right direction, and realize that we were born for greatness, and it's on us to go after it. But it is important where your eyes, where your heart, who you're looking to. And I can tell you, typically you guys have a lot of peer pressure. We know that and it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away until you die. But the reality is you have to keep your eyes off of people who are most likely wrong.
Caleb, how you doing, sir?
Good. How are you guys?
All right. I know you got a few questions. Fire away.
Thank you. Miss McFarland, can you tell us about a time from your childhood that helped you to learn to love yourself and how it impacted you today?
Sure. Hey, Caleb. Well, as I talked about in my own story about how I was bullied for most of my childhood and middle school for being too tall or for standing out. And so I would shrink. Most of my friends were sometimes a foot shorter than I was. And I would do whatever I could to hunch down and be, that's me like trying to be Daryl size, just like get as small as I possibly could. But I have to give it to my family. They saw that I was being pressured to try to fit in. And so not only did they speak words of affirmation to me that I was, uniquely beautiful, one of a kind, but they would also make me do wall sits, and they would make me sit back and put my shoulders against the wall to ensure that I had posture that made me proud of myself. And so it actually kind of helped, because now I was looking down at these bullies, and I realized that I'm always and was always above them. And also basketball, basketball made me confident about my abilities. It praised my uniqueness for being tall. And then I also saw so many women who were my size and were having fun and enjoyed being the person that they were. So at this point now, I love my height. I love being taller than most people. I never, get upset when people ask me, why are you so tall? Because I was born this way and I love it. And so now what I just try to do is give back, because I understand what bullying feels like to young people. And so if I can just, continue to be a voice of positive reinforcement that, your unique abilities make you beautiful, and try not to fit in and stand out, is all that I can do, and I will. Thanks for the question, Caleb.
Of course. And how are you doing tonight, Mr. Munoz?
Great, Caleb. How you doing?
Pretty good. My question for you is, how did your mother's dedication to her family impact you and your outlook on the world, your family, and your future?
Well, it's interesting, and I appreciate that question. And, Mom, who we lost 4 years ago, was amazing. With so many books that are being written these days of how to and, self-help and all this, it's almost like I can go back to my childhood and when I was being raised and think, okay, my mom could have written a book on a lot of these subjects. And it wasn't like she would sit there and get us around the table and lecture us and teach us about these things. It was basically her lifestyle. I mean, when you talk about the impact as far as my world, I mean, being, she was first generation, all her family, all my dad's family were from Mexico. So now we're in Southern California, Hispanic, and it didn't matter. We had two of my best friends. One was African-American, one was Caucasian. And we used to go to each other's home, and she was so hospitable that it didn't matter if you were Hispanic or white or African-American, so that she taught me that we have to all work together and all, really as a team. And that's kind of where I started to learn teamwork with my mom, because with 5 kids, we had to do things as a team. So she taught me that, we had to accept everybody regardless of color. So that helped me in the world. With my family, growing up, she engaged with what we did. I played baseball at a very young age, and she would not only be around, but she would go to the game. She would help us out. She was a heck of a mom to hit ground balls and fly balls. So not only would she be there, but she engaged with her children. So she taught me about being engaged with family. And of course, my future, adversity, success, she taught me how to handle it with humility, with perseverance, with work ethic. So, I have a lot to thank her for in those different areas. And Caleb, what a great question that I can focus on world, family, and future, and can really lay out several things that my mom taught me about each and every one of those areas.
Renaya, where are you, Renaya?
Right here.
How you doing? How's everything with you, Renaya? Good. You have 2 questions. Go ahead.
My first, hi, Mr. Green.
Hello, Renaya. How are you?
My first question is, with all that happened to you, how do you keep going?
I think what's really important in life is to recognize that we were created for something. Now, I mentioned earlier about seeing, what you see and what you don't see. And unfortunately, so much of what we see starts to affect us. And so we need to know why we're here. We need to know what's important and what are the values in our lives. So for example, my dad didn't know his dad, right? But his dad produced him, and that was it. And that you could say, hey, well, what's the value of that? Well, I got my dad here. Then my dad and my mom, they were married till I was 10 years old. 7 kids, got divorced. My dad struggled with alcoholism, all the issues that he faced from his childhood. Then here I come. I end up had a child out of wedlock. Then I got my life right. I got my life right through Jesus Christ. Then I end up marrying a lady, and I've been faithfully married 35 years. And then we raise our kids, and our kids are faithful the same way in raising their kids. So my connectivity to my grandfather, and then my father, then me, and then my children, it's so important that I realized that a long time ago to say, hey, wow, they didn't really run their leg pretty good. They were in last place. And then he was in the top 5 or 10 people beat him and 10 behind him. He's in the middle. And then here I come, I'm up there and I'm in the top 3. Then I give it to my son and say, hey man, go. And then he runs and then the next person running. So you have to have purpose. You have to know that this is your hour, this is your season, and it's not you against them. You just appreciate everybody in their place, and you're able to respond to that and say, this is my leg. This is my leg to run, and I got to run it hard and give the baton up. And so I thank God for my grandfather, who we never knew, my dad, me, my children, and their children, and may God's grace be that from generation to generation, we go further and further. A lot of times people say, hey, I'm the first one who went to college from my family. I'm the first one who made more than $20,000. That's great. Those are cool. But I'm talking about the virtuous things, the commendable qualities, those things that are important, those moral things, things that are eternal, things that affects you and affects the generations to come in a way that has virtue. They're virtuous and not just, hey, I made some money or I played football, I did this. But I'm talking about things that were eternal, where God has created us for. So.
Renaya, you have a question for Mr. Williams.
My question was, what do you think are the most valuable traits for kids to have?
The most valuable trait for a child to have, a kid to have, is honesty. That is the ability to be truthful with yourself, and being truthful with yourself is having good self-awareness. In other words, if you're in a classroom, be honest. If you don't understand something that the teacher talked about, I don't care if none of your other classmates ask a question. You be honest and you say, hey, I didn't understand that. And it may be something that other people may laugh, but the truth is, when you're honest in the classroom, a lot of times you will ask a question that other students wanted to ask, but they didn't have the boldness. When you're struggling in an area, be honest. If you are asked a question, just get used to being honest, because when you're honest, you don't have to have a great memory, because people have to remember the lies they told. When you're always honest, you can always answer immediately, because you're always telling the truth.
Briston, how you doing there, sir?
I'm doing good.
All right, you have some questions for our Hall of Famers? Fire away.
My question for Mr. Williams is, what inspired you to become a pastor?
My parents sent me and my two older brothers in New Orleans to church. Church never made sense and never seemed like the pastor was preaching a message, which I'm not criticizing, but I never sensed while I was young that the pastor would even tailor his message to make it relevant for the people that were there, like myself as a young man. So I realized how much Jesus Christ impacted my life. So my wife Tracy and I decided to start a church, and we wanted to teach the Bible in such a way where just as the Bible and what Jesus Christ did in my life impacted me in all of my human endeavors as a family, as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a football player, and even now as a pastor. And I wanted to share those things where people can now understand that God is real even in their everyday life.
And my second question is for Mr. Munoz. How hard was it to maintain good grades while recovering from injuries?
That's a great question because it could have been very difficult, and it was at times. I have to, and I keep going back to my childhood, the lessons I learned, and growing up as a kid, being able to get your schoolwork done and do well in class, you would be rewarded. I loved baseball as a kid, so I got a reward during the school year. If I did my homework and did well in school, I got to play baseball. So when I got to high school, I'm playing 3 sports. So in order to play sports, I had to do well again in class. So then I figured that would be my way out because we didn't have the funds or finances to move on past high school. And the fact that, sure, I was playing football and doing well in football, but also I was maintaining a pretty good GPA, that helped me move on to the next level. So it was one of those things, once I got to college and I went through those knee operations, I knew that I had to continue. If I wanted to rehab, if I wanted to bounce back from each injury and play, I had to make sure that I would go to class, and it was tough. I had crutches a lot of times because back then the technology wasn't what it is now. You usually wore a cast for a little bit. You know, you had to have crutches. So I would go to class, I would go to rehab, lift weights, and then go back to my apartment and do homework. So it was a matter of priority. I wanted to continue to do something I loved, and that was play football. In order to do that, I had to maintain my grades. I had to make sure that I took care of my schoolwork. So it all kind of works together, you know, going back from what you were taught growing up, elementary, high school, and then who would know that that was going to happen to me in college, where I had to make sure that I took care of my class going through 3 knee operations in order to get back on the field. So that was a great question, Briston.
Raina, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being patient. You have 2 questions, one for our Hall of Famer and one for our team ambassador. Let's hear them.
My first question is for Mr. Green. How often did you have a positive role model in your life to get you to where you are now?
My belief is that I always did. You know, I want to just say that in football, we'll go back to football. I was on defense, but you can't be on defense all the time. I mean, they can eventually give them the ball, or you're going to get the ball. And so to me, good role models and bad role models are all good. They're all good all the time. It's always important because you're always getting value out of everything. You're getting value out of the person that you shouldn't, you know, don't do that. So I learned not to do that. Hey, do this. That was great. I learned to do that. So in my opinion, my dad, with all his experience and his background, my mom never graduated high school. I think they brought a lot of good stuff. I think there was a lot of bad stuff. But I think all of that together, I don't think we have to go good, bad. We have to say we take it all in. We take it all in, and we're able to get value out of everything. This one takes me that way. This one takes me that way. This one stops me from going that way. This one tells me to go that way. And so my opinion is that I can accept all people. I can appreciate the value that I get from all experiences. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to celebrate them, but I think I can get value out of all of it. And that's what I've tried to teach my kids. So open up. I said, be careful with your eyes, but open up your mind and look at everybody and see what value you can get out of everybody.
Question is for Miss McFarland. When did you stop trying to be like others and just be you? And why did you decide to do that?
To be honest, I am still trying to just be myself. You know, we've all talked about the peer pressure that starts when you're young, and there is still peer pressure that adults like myself and my team members still experience to this day. But what has helped me to navigate to the person I want to be is really my values and what I hold dear to myself. I know even when I was a child, I did not like getting in trouble. I tried to do the best that I could of avoiding hearing my father's lectures or getting into timeout. And so whenever I was out in school or with my friends or family, I was always observing, you know, what other people were doing to gain experience in terms of knowing, yeah, though that's not the crew I want to hang out with. These people are doing good for their community. They're nice. They are happy. They enjoy school. These are the people I want to be with. And so as I started to figure out and navigate the people that made me better in life, then I started to hang around them more. And naturally, you start to pick up those positive values, those positive traits from people that have the same similar values that you have. And so to this day, when I'm out doing my community service, odds are I'm probably going to vibe with those people that are doing community service because they have the similar values and principles. They have a firm constitution. And so I'm reading Michelle Obama's book. I'm watching her on Netflix because I want to become somebody like her. And so you're always trying to figure out yourself. And why I decided to do that is because I wanted to feel good about myself. I didn't want to be, you know, a person that I don't have the same values with, because then I wouldn't feel good. I would have bad energy. But again, just like Daryl said, you know, you want to always observe and experience a well-rounded group of people so that you can figure out for yourself what you want to do and what values you want to incorporate in your life.
Thank you so much for that, Iman. Parker, you're bringing up the rear. You have your questions. Thank you so much for being patient. Everybody's been locked in, laser focused. Parker, take us home.
All right. My first question is for Mr. Munoz. Was there ever a point in your life where you were close to quitting, or were you always confident in your abilities to make it through?
You know, I can honestly say that I don't think there was ever a point that I said, I'm going to quit, but there was a high level of frustration. You know, going through the adversity I went through, I was really frustrated. And, but it wasn't, I would go to the next day with frustration, but then, you know, I would work. And I think the mentors I had and the work ethic I was taught, it would help me at least work through that level of frustration. And all of a sudden I'd say, okay, I've got through that frustration. I feel better. I've just busted it. I've worked hard in whatever area I was working hard in that I was frustrated in. And then, you know, the abilities would take over. So I'm thankful that I never really got to a point where I just kind of shut down and said, it's not worth going on. I'm just going to quit. And I'm glad that it was just a high level of frustration that I could work through and that I could come out and then, you know, feel much better about the situation.
Thank you very much. And my second question is for Ms. McFarland. You talk a lot about self-positivity. Was how you thought about yourself in sports the same way you thought about yourself in business? And can you give an example of a way you implemented self-positivity into your own life?
Hey, Parker, great question. I was actually a late bloomer in terms of what I thought or knew what I wanted to do for a profession. When I was in college, I played basketball so that I could get a free education in college. And as a child, I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied medicine throughout my entire college career. When I graduated, I decided not to go to med school. And so my family business had been established for over 10 years at that point. And I felt a really strong desire to support my parents. It was right after the recession. And so I wanted to assist them. But I knew nothing about running a business. And so I knew that helping my parents run their business was a really big goal of mine. And I knew that I had to set some goals and some action items to achieve that goal. And so one of them was to learn about business. And so I decided to go back to school. In addition to getting a traditional education in business, I started to intern with other businesses so I could experience other corporations and other companies and how they manage their business. Because again, I was playing basketball throughout my whole college career, so I was not able to do internships. So it took me about 4 years, 2 years to finish up getting my MBA at Howard. And then during that time, I was also working for about 3 of those years. But I wanted to gain confidence in myself and allow myself to believe that I could actually be impactful with my company. And I knew that I probably would not believe in myself unless I had the education, the experience. And it turned out to be the case. I don't know, most people have some way of educating themselves by running a business, whether it's non-traditional or traditional measures. But I'm very happy that I decided to take those steps. And now today, I love learning. I will probably go back to school. Now that we're stuck at home, I might take up some online courses, but I'm always looking to better myself, to give me that confidence boost, and to make me a better business person for my parents' company.
Wow, this has been an amazing and an engaging discussion. To our Hall of Fame team, thank you. Thank you for your time, your insight, and of course, your wisdom. To all of our students from across the great state of Ohio, thank you. Thank you for participating in the first ever virtual Strong Youth, Strong Communities, Ohio. We know that you're going to take these tools and put them in your toolbox and use them for the rest of your lives. And we can't wait to host you and your families at the most inspiring place on earth, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Pro Football Hall.
We're so honored to be joined by our Hall of Fame team. Guys, this has been an amazing discussion. And before we jump in, and I want to thank everybody who's been tuning in to Facebook Live and sending your questions. Please continue to send your questions to us for our gold jackets. But before we actually go into those questions, I want to go to the Hall of Fame team and just get an understanding of what did you learn from listening to the students? And I want to start off with Daryl first and foremost.
Thanks, Jameer. That's a great question. Whitney Houston wrote it was an older song she re-sung. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. The future is now. And I'm never so excited as to hear what's in the hearts of these young people. There's no cynicalness. There's no fear. These kids give us great hope that we're going to have a great future. You listen to their questions. You listen to their heart. And I'm so proud to be a part of this and to see what our future holds. And it's right in their hearts, and it's in there, and we're in their hands, and I'm happy. They teach me that we can trust them.
Iman, your thoughts?
Yeah, I echo what Daryl said, but I'm also so proud, and I was so impressed with the depth of question that the kids had. They seemed so hungry and curious and willing to absorb the information and the knowledge that we were relaying to them. And they made me very excited for their future. that they're setting themselves up for success.
And Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Well, Jameer, thank you. No, Daryl and Iman have said some great things, and I just echo what they say. It's amazing to see the quality of the young people for our future leadership, and the way they listen, the way they process, and then the in-depth questions they ask. And it's not just like, oh, I think I'll ask this. They really think about them. You can tell because they're such great questions that they think about them, and it's something that they're very concerned about and they want to learn about. So I'm excited. I'm thankful for our leadership coming up behind us.
And lastly, Aeneas, your thoughts.
I was reminded by the diverse group that we had that were actually attending at our Zoom conference. And it just tells me and remind all of us how great our country is. And these young people were listening to us attentively for wisdom. And my dad makes a statement. He says, son, we who are older, is not that we're much smarter than younger people. We've just seen things more often. So for them to listen in and hear our experiences, and as Daryl say, make it a part of their constitution where they could take some things from our experiences and now during this very challenging time, but also opportune time where young people can use their creativity, their innovation, and take what we've given them along with what they've given themselves and make their generation great. And here's the other thing that I would speak on behalf of, not so much Iman, because she's a little younger than Daryl and Anthony, but I would say to the young people, what you don't realize is when you're listening to us, we who are older, you actually feed the importance that we still add and the value we still add to society by allowing us to share our experiences.
Very good. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, guys, let's jump right into it and take our questions from our viewers. Aeneas, I want to stay with you because John from Zanesville, he wants to know, what tips would you give for the youth facing a lot of challenges on setting goals and focusing on those goals when they seem unreachable?
The first thing I would say is, how do you eat an elephant? Man, somebody may say, how do I eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So when there is a diversity of challenges that are facing, the mind gets overwhelmed. But when it first starts with, I would say, purpose, it could be the challenges as it relates to the purpose of why I am in school, or discovering my purpose, even at a young age, some of the things that I like to do. But one of my mentors taught me, he says, when it comes down to goal setting, it's very important to look at it as if you wanted to fill up a glass vase. And put it in the glass vase, you have the options of rocks, gravel, and sand. And what he said was, does it look like you can get all these items in this vase? And I said, well, no. He said, well, actually you can. He says, but you have to put the big rocks in first. And those are the things that you know you have to do. Because a lot of times we get smothered and we get discouraged because we're attempting to do so many small goals that won't make a big difference. So he taught us put the big rocks in first, then the gravel, and the gravel gets all around the rocks, shake it up a little bit, then put the sand in. And because I got the big rocks in first, I was able to have confidence that indeed I could eat the elephant.
Wow. Daryl, I want to come to you. Susan from Athens wants to know, what if you're struggling to find your purpose in the face of adversity? What would you suggest us to do to find that purpose?
You know, the Bible tells us to train our children up in the way they should go. That means a child is naturally, follow the natural curve. So they need to look at the natural curve. I'm naturally happy. I'm naturally caring. I'm naturally musical. I'm naturally, find your natural curve. Seek God. Seek your parents. Seek leaders. Seek mom and dad above your friends. You know, sometimes you may have good friends, but find those people who you can trust. And also trust yourself. Trust yourself, because that natural bent in you, that natural little thing that says, don't do that, do that. many times that is your natural bent, and that is the natural and a proper way to go. So don't find yourself hopeless. You're never hopeless. You're never hopeless, because inside of you, there's a natural bent inside of you. And also God has given you people, whether it's parents, adopted parents, friends, mentors, that you can find as well. But most of all, I have found, if I seek God, if I asked him, he said, I will find. If I knock, he said, the door will be open. If I seek him, I'll find it. And so I just encourage you, find your natural bent, and don't fight it. If you're bent that way, roll with it, because nobody is bent to go into darkness. We can be bent to go into the light.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And Iman, Tom from Toledo wants to know, how would you suggest as a youth to stand up or protect others from being bullied?
Absolutely. Great question. Well, first, I would say, earpiece out.
Speaking of bullying.
That's good.
Speaking of bullying, first I would say, be a leader. Always carry yourself as someone who sets itself as an example. So first of all, you yourself, remove yourself from any bullying scenarios. And then I would also say, speak out and reach out. So if you see any bullying going on, speak out to someone that you might trust that's in a leadership position or is a responsible human being, your parents, mentors, your teachers. Let them know that something that you feel is going badly is happening. And secondly, reach out to the individual being bullied. No one wants to be bullied, okay? It does not feel good. When I was bullied as a child, I didn't want to go to school. I didn't really have a lot of friends. I didn't feel good about myself. And I fortunately had friends that reached out to me to make me feel better. And so when you see someone who might be sitting alone or is being teased or humiliated, reach out to them, invite them to the table for lunch, invite them over for parties, or go to the movies or go to the park. Just by seeing that someone cares and is aware of their situation can do a million times positive help and reinforcement. So speak out, reach out, and be a leader.
Thank you for that. And lastly, Anthony, Shelly King. Anthony, it's so good to see your face. I worked for you at the Pizza Tower back in the late 80s. You and Dee Dee were always so gracious and kind, and Michael and Michelle were just little kiddos back then. Thank you for your kindness and leadership, and I hope you and your family are doing well.
Well, Shelly, first of all, thank you for those kind words. And, it's interesting when she talks about, kindness and leadership. First of all, the kindness thing. And to me, being an owner of a business as we were with the Pizza Tower, now with the small companies I have in our foundation, might be the owner, might be, the name on the foundation. But I just have to go back and say that, Jesus came to serve, not to be served. And to be that example as a servanthood leader, in my humble opinion, I'm not going to declare myself a leader. I believe that individuals, your team, those around you will say if you're a leader or not. For someone to stand up and say, I'm a leader, I just have never believed that that's the case. I believe that your people that work for you, your teammates, if you deserve that, if you've made an consistent example of leading people in a positive way, doing things to influence, then if they call you a leader, then I appreciate that. But the fact that she says kindness and leadership, to me, it doesn't matter if you were the young man and woman washing the dishes or serving the people there or the owners. You're no better than anybody else. We're on the same. We're all the same, and that's why I want to treat people that way. I mean, I played offensive line. We had the quarterback, the defensive backs. We had the head coach, and we had the trainers and the equipment managers. To me, I always say everyone is just as important. You might have the fast guys playing defensive backs and the slow guys playing the linemen, but we're all as important as the next. And that's I've always had that attitude. I was taught that through, my belief in Christ and through mentors I've had in my life. So the fact that I wear a gold shirt or gold jacket or have a bust does not make me any better than anyone else. So I appreciate those kind words, and those are things that I always live by, regardless. Like I said, if you own the company and people are working for you, you gotta be an example to those individuals, how to treat people with kindness and how to hopefully influence people in a positive way by putting a strategy and a plan and making it about them, not about yourself, allowing them to be successful.
Well, Hall of Fame team, I want to thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and your insight. I look forward to seeing you at the most inspiring place on earth, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And now, as we move to conclude this presentation of Strong Youth, Strong Communities, Ohio, we now send it back to Columbus, to the great governor of the great state of Ohio, Mr. Mike Dewine.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who joined us for today's Strong Youth, Strong Communities Summit. I appreciate your participation and comments about the challenges that you are confronting. Thank you again to our friends at Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and Buckeye Health Plan for helping us organize this online event. And to our youth, as future leaders, you have many opportunities to make Ohio an even better place to live, to work, play, raise a family, and start a career. Stay strong, stay healthy, and continue to be the very best that you can be. Thank you.
I am valuable. Let's do it 3 times. The first one after me. I am valuable. Come
I
on.
am valuable.
Let's do it again. I am valuable. Go.
I am valuable.
Now say it the 3rd time like you really mean it, like you're looking in a mirror. Come on, Parker. Come on, guys. I am
valuable.
Let me lead it. I am valuable. Your turn.
I am valuable.
This is a presentation of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.